The Teachers' March was the first black middle-class demonstration in Selma. Cheyenne Webb and Rachel West were school children at the time.
And it was amazing to see how many teachers had participated. I remember vividly on that day when I saw my teachers marching with me, you know, just for the right to vote.
And it was, teachers then was somewhat like up in the upper class, you know. People look up to teachers then and look up to preachers. They were somewhat like leaders for us back then.
Then the undertakers got a group and they marched. The beauticians got a group, they marched. Everybody marched after teachers marched because teachers had more influence than they ever dreamed in the community.
And we want you to know, gentlemen, that every one of you, see, we know your badge numbers, we know your names.
In mid-February, Reverend C.T. Vivian, an SCLC organizer, confronted Sheriff Clark and his deputies on the courthouse steps.
But believe me, there were those that followed Hitler, like you blindly follow this Sheriff Clark, who didn't think their day would come. But they also were pulled into the courtrooms, and they were also given their death sentences. You're not this bad a racist, but you're a racist in the same way that Hitler was a racist. And you're blindly following a man that's leading you down a road that's going to bring you into federal court. Now, I am representing people in Dallas County, and I have that right to do so. Now, and as I represent them, and they can speak for themselves, is what I'm saying true? Yeah. Is it what you think and what you believe? Yeah. For this is not a local problem, gentlemen. This is a national problem. You can't keep anyone in the United States from voting without hurting the rights of all other citizens. Democracy's built on this. This is why every man has the right to vote, regardless.
And he started shouting at me that I was a Hitler, I was a brute, that I was a Nazi. I don't remember everything he called me. And I did lose my temper then.
And we have come to be here because they are registering at this time.
Turn that light on. I'm going to shoot it. I'm flying at me and I can't enforce the law of the light in my face.
We have come to register. And this is our reason for being here. We're not
You're blinding me with that light.
We're not move back. Well, no, you can arrest us, you don't keep that. You don't keep You want to arrest us, You don't have to beat us. No, you don't have to beat us.
I don't remember even hitting him, but I went to the doctor and got an x-ray and found out I had a linear fracture and a finger on my left hand.
With Jim Clark, it was a clear engagement between the forces of movement and the forces of the structure that would destroy movement. It was a clear engagement between those who wished the fullness of their personalities to be met and those that would destroy us physically and psychologically. You do not walk away from that. This is what movement meant. Movement meant that finally we were encountering on a mass scale the evil that had been destroying us on a mass scale. You do not walk away from that. You continue to answer it.
If we're wrong, why don't you arrest us?
Why don't you get out in front of the camera and go on?
It's not a matter of being in front of the camera. It's a matter of facing your sheriff and facing your judge. We're willing to be beaten for democracy, and you misuse democracy in the street. You beat people bloody in order that they will not have the privilege to vote. You beat me in the side and then hide your blows. I don't need to leave. We've come to register to vote. Hey, under arrest. Hey, everybody under arrest. Let them all go. You don't arrest me.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything that Jim Clark does in this community.
To force the Southern people to break down segregation and admit the Negro race into our theaters, into our swimming pools, into our...
Strom Thurmond's 1948 presidential run on a segregationist platform was unsuccessful. But it wasn't until 1971 that the Supreme Court finally outlawed segregated pools and beaches, 17 years after the integration of American schools. The effort to integrate beaches and pools intensified here in 1964 in the former slave trading port of St. Augustine, Florida, when a civil rights leader literally drew a new line in the sand and asked former state attorney Dan Warren for the protection of the law.
He was wearing a bathing suit. He said, well, I want to go swimming. And I said, well, be my guest. You're properly attired. And he said, well, you don't understand, Mr. Warren. Every time we want to go swimming at the public beach, the Klan interferes with us and they beat us up.
Lunch counter sit-ins turned into beach wade-ins, and a special force of state troopers was sent in to keep segregationists from pummeling the protesters.
They formed two lines, waded out in the ocean in full uniform. Demonstrators came in. Well, the Klan was waiting, and they had pickup trucks parked on the beach, and in the trunks and in the beds, the trucks had surveyor stakes. And they'd grab the surveyor stakes and try to break through that line.
What did swimming represent to segregationists that created such hostility?
Fear.
Of what?
Fear against going and sharing the same water with blacks.
44% of black children live under the poverty level right now. All right? 36% of black families live under the poverty level, and that's the highest it's ever been since they've been keeping figures on us. Let's say it this way. Let's say it is too much and you drop out, or are pushed out is what we call it, being pushed out. Then 30% of a white dropouts are unemployed, but 71.4% of black dropouts are unemployed. If you're a black male, the study said that we may see a generation of young black men who've never had a steady job. Even if you get to college, a black man with a college education will make slightly less in a lifetime than a white man with a high school education.
But let me stop you, Dr. Vivian, because I know that there are a number of people listening to this show, and no doubt those of you in the seminar who say, well, that is not my fault, and the opportunities have been given, and so we need to discuss why those statistics are the way they are.
Yeah, and let's deal with that as the principle.
Okay.
What America doesn't deal with, and if you got in half of our confrontations there, is that what white America doesn't deal with when it comes to blacks is cause and effect. Yeah. They say blacks are like this, but they never deal with why we're like that, right? That's why I turn and say, are blacks treated the same in the society? And of course, every white person, no, we're not. But what they don't realize, Oprah, is what that actually does, the depth of it, is that their mistreatment, their choosing not to accept blacks, creates a depth of suffering and death. In fact, there is nothing in this society.
It starts a chain that never gets broken.
That's it. In fact, chain is the good word because it's a cycle. Everything works on everything else. In fact, racism destroys more people psychologically and physically than any other factor in American society.